Hello everyone! In today's video, we are taking a closer look at a brand new and very promising city building game, City Masterplan. The game hasn't even been released yet, but its first trailer has already gathered hundreds of thousands of views. According to the developers, City Masterplan aims to strike a balance between realistic city building and accessible, easy-to-manage systems. And in the long run, it could even become a serious challenger to City Skylines 2. In this video, we will break down everything we currently know about the game in 10+1 key points, while also comparing it to other modern city builders. Let's get started. There is no doubt that after the fall of SimCity, the City Skylines series, Series 1 and CS2, has become the dominant force in the city building games. However, there have been attempts to challenge it. High-Rise City, for example, showed promise, but the momentum and perhaps the funding seemed to run out before it could become a real competitor. When it comes to city-state metropolis, I have my doubts as well, mainly due to the developer's background and the limitations of a small-scale project. It's very easy for these kinds of games to become overhyped. And the reason is simple. Modern city builders are among the most complex game systems in gaming. You need to stimulate water and electricity systems, public services, transportation, the economy, and all of this has to work together as a single, coherent system. That level of complexity is extremely difficult to achieve, which is why developing such a game as a small or independent project is almost an impossible mission. Even though we have seen something similar work in a different setting, like in Manor Lords, for example, city builders are on a completely different age and level. To this day, no real challenger has emerged for City Skylines. That said, there are something interesting directions. Transport Fever 3, for instance, is already pushing beyond being just a transport management game and could approach this category from a completely different angle. I will probably cover that in a future video. But for now, let's focus on a City Masterplan. One of the central ideas behind the game is a creative freedom. The developers aim to give players as much control as possible. This doesn't just apply to terrain shaping or road building, but to the entire atmosphere of your city. You will be able to choose architectural style, overall mood, even lighting conditions. And that's interesting because in City Skylines 2, even after years, you still don't have this level of control, at least not without mods. This alone could already be an advantage. No, I am not saying this will definitely become a true challenger to City Skylines, but it is absolutely worth looking at what kind of new approaches the developers are trying. So let's go through the key features. One of the most important promises is that City Masterplan breaks away from the traditional grid-based system. In other words, you are not forced into square layouts anymore. No, you might say, don't we already have freedom in City Skylines 2? Well, yes and no. You can draw roads, but you are still working within fairly strict limitations, snapping, angles, as well as hidden constraints. You can build a lot, but compromises are almost always part of the process. City Masterplan, on the other hand, promises to remove many of these limitations. The idea is simple. You draw what you imagine, not what the system allows. At first glance, this might remind you of Manor Lords, where road building is also more organic. But that's a medieval village. Here we are talking about a modern metropolis at full scale. Overpasses, junctions, multi-level networks, all of it becomes part of a single interconnected system. And this isn't just about visuals. Roads directly affect traffic, economy, and city efficiency. So you are not just building something that looks good, you are designing a system that has to work. The one-to-one scale means that buildings, roads, and distances are much closer to real-world proportions. This makes the city feel far more realistic. In most city builders, including City Skylines 2, everything is intentionally compressed. That makes the game more accessible and easier to manage, but it comes at the cost of realism. In City Masterplan, the goal is different. A residential district won't just be a few streets, it will take up actual space. Distances will matter. You won't be able to squeeze everything next to each other. This forces you to think more carefully about layout and planning. Transport becomes more important because real distances create real challenges. In return, the city becomes far more believable. You are not just building a model, you are building a system. Another key promise of City Masterplan is its traffic system. According to the developers, you don't need to be an engineer to build a functional network. But at the same time, the game seems to encourage planning things properly from the very beginning, instead of just reacting to problems later on. In City Skylines 2, you often fix issues as they appear. Here the goal seems to be to prevent those problems altogether. This introduces a more macro-level approach. You are not just designing individual intersections, you are designing overall flow. Where do people travel? Where do goods move? What are the main traffic corridors? We don't yet know how deep or how automated this system will be, but it is clear that it's aiming for a different mindset. There is one concern though. So far we have seen almost nothing about public transport. No buses, no trams, no metro systems have been mentioned. There is a train in the trailer, which is a good sign, but overall this area is still a big question mark. And in modern city builders, public transport is absolutely essential, not just for traffic, but for how the entire city functions. So this is definitely something worth keeping an eye on. One of the more interesting promises of City Masterplan is that you are not limited to a single visual style. In other words, you are not just building a generic city, you are creating a place with a distinct identity. According to the developers, you could build a classic American metropolis or a more compact East Asian style city. At first glance, this might sound similar to what we have seen in games like SimCity Societies or even SimCity 2013. But there is an important difference here. In City Masterplan, style isn't just visual, it also affects density, structure, and the overall layout. So you are not just swapping building skins, you are shaping an entire different kind of city. The developers also suggest that this system could expand over time, introducing new cultural styles in the future. And that's important because it means each city can feel truly unique. Not just in how it works, but in how it feels. In City Skylines 2, we do have different assets and regional packs, but they don't always come together as a fully cohesive experience. Sometimes certain zones are missing, or you have to mix multiple packs just to achieve a consistent look. Here, the promise is a more unified system. You are not just selecting buildings, you are defining a city's identity. Another key promise of City Masterplan is detail and variety. The developers highlight a large building library combined with procedural generation. This means buildings aren't always fixed. Instead, the game assembles them from different elements: facades, roof, and smaller details. So even the same type of building can appear in many different variations. The goal is simple: to avoid repetition. In City Skylines 2, you have a wide range of assets, But over time, patterns start to emerge. Here the idea is that each district will feel slightly different even when using the same zoning. This becomes especially noticeable when you zoom in. The city isn't just impressive from a distance, it is rich in detail up close. And that's where it really starts to feel alive. Not just a model, but a believable, living environment. One of the more ambitious aspects of City Masterplan is its economic system. According to the developers, goods will follow a complete journey, from production to processing to consumption. In other words, resources don't just appear, they move through a connected system. City Skylines 2 already includes similar mechanics, but they often operate in the background. City Masterplan aims to bring these systems to the forefront. You will be able to see extraction, transportation, logistics, and distribution. Which means it is no longer enough to just zone and build, you need to make sure everything actually works together. This approach is somewhat similar to High-Rise City, where supply chains are a core part of the gameplay. Everything is connected. And if one part of the system breaks down, the entire city feels the impact. We don't yet know how deep or complex this system will be, but if it is implemented well, it could add a serious strategic layer to the game. Another concept the developers emphasize is information transparency. On the other words, you will have clear data panels that show how your city works. You will be able to see what's happening, why it's happening, and how your decisions affect the system. This isn't entirely new. City Skylines 2 already includes statistics and info view. But here the promise is better clarity and accessibility. At this point, we don't yet know how much deeper this system will go. It might simply be a cleaner interface, or it could provide genuinely new insights. For now, this remains one of the more uncertain features. The developers also emphasize the size of the map. According to current information, the game will feature a continuous map of around 24 by 24 kilometers. That's roughly 576 square kilometers. To put that into perspective, City Skylines 2 offers about 159 square kilometers of buildable area. So this would be more than 3 times larger. But it is not just about size. The key difference is that this is a fully continuous world. No separate tiles, no segmented expansion. The city grows as a single connected system. This allows for dense downtown areas, suburban zones, and industrial regions, all within the same space. In City Skylines 2, even though the map is large, expansion feels somewhat staged due to the tile system. Here the promise is more natural growth. How much of a difference this will actually make remains to be seen, but the concept itself suggests a new scale of city building. Another interesting direction is the role of terrain. The environment is not just a backdrop, it definitely shapes your decisions. You could build a coastal harbor city or a settlement between mountains. At first, this might seem like a purely visual feature, but in reality, it affects gameplay. Terrain influences where you build, how you build, and what kind of city you create. A flat map and mountainous map require completely different strategies. City Skylines 2 already includes terrain variation, but it often feels optional. Here the idea is that terrain becomes a core part of planning. We don't yet know how challenging this will be, but it definitely sounds like a promising direction. And now, the less exciting part, system requirements. Even though minimum specs are not fully known yet, the recommended setup is already quite demanding. We are talking about RTX 3090 level GPU and 32GB of RAM, which is extremely high, even by modern standards. Another important difference is the engine. City Masterplan is built on Unreal Engine 5, one of the most advanced engines available today, especially in terms of visuals and lighting. City Skylines 2, on the other hand, uses a heavily modified version of Unity. That's not necessarily a problem, but it shows that the two games are taking different approaches. Unreal Engine tends to focus on visual fidelity. Unity has traditionally been stronger in simulation flexibility. This is especially relevant because City Skylines 2 had serious performance issues at launch. Players are now much more sensitive to this topic. So yes, the visuals look impressive, but the real question is at what cost? Because an RTX 3090 is not exactly a standard setup. Finally, there is one more thing we need to talk about. The developer 121 Studio is essentially unknown. This appears to be their first project. There is very little information about them. No previous titles, no clear background, and no established track record. Now, that doesn't automatically mean something is wrong. Many great games have been made by small teams, but this is a highly ambitious project. We are talking about real-scale simulation, massive maps, Unreal Engine 5, as well as complex systems. And all of this from an unknown studio. That combination raises some questions. At this point, there are more promises than a proven gameplay. So it is definitely worth staying cautious. And if we take a step back, maybe this isn't just about one new game. Maybe it's about the future of the genre itself. In recent years, City Skylines has clearly dominated. And even though City Skylines 2 improved in many areas, its launch also showed just how difficult it is to build a modern city building game, even for experienced developers. City Masterplan is trying to explore new directions, real scale, greater freedom, and more visible systems. On paper, it offers exactly what many players have been missing. But the real question is how well this will actually work in practice. Because a project like this can go in two very different directions. It becomes a huge success or a very disappointing failure. That's why it will be especially interesting to follow its development in the coming months. Because if everything comes together, City Masterplan could become a real challenger to City Skylines 2. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, enjoy building your city.